One of the words was Major, and I was like, don't do that one. And one of my ones was Lazer, and he said, don't do that one, and that was it, Major Lazer.
And the time.
End of
End of time, yeah.
Actually, there's other songs that we did for Beyonce that never made it. If we actually listened to the critics and listened to our fans and listened to what people thought we'd make, our music would fucking suck. Hey, this is Diplo, part of Major Lazer.
This is Switch, also part of Major Lazer.
And you're watching Billboard News.
I'm here with Diplo and Switch. We're here to talk about the 15-year anniversary of the seminal Major Lazer album, Guns Don't Kill People, Lazers Do. To start, how are you guys feeling about it being 15 years ago now? What does that bring up for you?
Well, we're old now. We've been doing it
a little slower.
It's crazy that we actually have been still having our careers 15 years and still like loving music, and we're still the same kind of creative people. I think me and Dave have known each other for so long, and it's cool to still be friends and come together and be able to work and share ideas and to come from that world. So it's cool that we can keep doing it.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, Jamaica, out of anywhere in the world, is kind of like every time you go there, there's something new to pick up on or vibe on. Do you know what I mean? It feels brand new every time you go there.
Do you guys remember the first time that you met?
It was at Fabric, wasn't it?
Yeah, London. Yeah, London.
I think I told the story recently, but Dave can correct me if I was wrong. We both played Fabric. It was like he was a resident there, and he was like in the house room, and I was like in the weird. There's a party called Run the Road. That was like the beginning of UK grime
Like
and dubstep.
grime, yeah.
And I was in mix, and it was kind of a mashup party, and I was like the hip hop DJ. I played like Usher song, it went like dubstep and just weird things, and it was brand new sound. And Dave also was a house DJ that was doing something really unique for house music at the time, and he was like just had all the hits in the clubs at the time. So I was like a huge fan, and we linked up. Just a mutual respect. I was like, I want to see him play, and I came, and we had the same night. I don't know if I played with you or with different rooms, but we hung out in the booth. First time I met him, he was really drunk in the booth at Fabric.
When did it become a thing of like, okay, we're going to formalize this and work together?
We both had a soft spot for Jamaican music at the time, and we were both doing our individual sounds, so it was a good excuse for us to kind of come together and do stuff. But we had both been working on MIA separately. That's really how we met professionally. I'd been following Wes as a DJ and didn't know Maya. I'd been out to Jamaica, came back, heard Maya on the radio, and went and dropped off the music that I'd made in Jamaica at XL.
Sure.
And then they called me and were like, she's working with Diplo in West London. Do you want to go and say hello? And that was it, really. I think that was
Yeah. He popped in. She was a catalyst for our music for sure. But Dave had been in Jamaica way before me. He had a really crazy record that wasn't big at all, but it was the Two Cultures Clash album. He did 2 songs for that, right? So he
Miss
was
Thing.
Miss Thing record.
Yeah.
He was in Jamaica a lot doing a project. Who put that record out? Was it Nick or was it John Baker?
That was John Baker, and it was Wall of Sound.
Yeah, Wall of Sound. So he was a house producer, but they had brought him to Jamaica with other guys like Rhythm Digitales and some other dudes were there.
Yeah.
And he was working in Jamaica just in his like, when Dave's in the studio, he just has his laptop, some headphones, 3 or 4 bottles of wine, and like a bunch of weird shit that he finds. So he puts it all in like a briefcase and just stuffs it all in there, wires and everything, and just like unloads. And he's just in there in Jamaica. I think he's probably just catching vocals, and he was coaching the people, but he had put a record out that was made in Jamaica. And I was like, whoa, Jamaica, like the way he mixes Jamaican music with futuristic sounds, I was just like, that is crazy. Like he put out a couple records, and I was like, followed suit, and I was really interested in what he was doing. So we linked up through MIA.
When you went for the first time, were you guys together or did you go on your own, Wes?
I had gone on my own a couple of years before. I'd gotten off of a cruise ship that I had a job on. I hated it so much. I got off in Ocho Rios and just went to Kingston and met a couple artists, like Left Side, who we worked with a lot.
Yeah. Cartel,
I met him. Just people I met just through friends of friends. And Dave had already been there, and I went a little later. Both went to Jamaica on our own, and we linked up again through MIA. Dave had a really big hand in a lot of music from my city. When he met me, he was very excited about what I was doing at parties, but he was like, yeah, I want to know about this Philly scene.
Spank
So
Rock,
he came
Amanda.
and he wanted to meet Amanda Blank, Spank Rock, Plastic Little,
Santi
Gold, and of course Maya wasn't from Philly, but she was there a lot working with me. And Philly had like the most cutting edge scene, I think, in hip hop meets dance music at the moment.
But those are like the holotronics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We had a party that was like the home for the music, and Dave was really like, he knew that it was special.
That's what I was getting in London, was the hollowboard and all of that, the holotronics. That was different from anything else. That was really, for me, American house music and hip hop was everything that I was studying.
Right.
So when these guys were coming along and mashing that up and not scared of stepping outside of any different boundary, do you know what I mean? Still based on hip hop mainly, but kind of like experiment. Yeah, exactly. That was refreshing.
That's what's interesting. Like, you guys have all this musical DNA, and then you go down to Jamaica to make this album together. Like, where do you even start with everything that you're pulling from? And it's like already such a global thing.
I think Philly was special because the scene that we had, we just invented it. There was nothing before us. It was just, we rented a venue, and all the kids who came out to the party, Holotronics, were like just working class kids. They were just dressed like they came off their job, whatever. They came from their college, whatever. And we all loaded ourselves in this hall about this size, and we DJ'd, and there was like no fashion. It was just cheap beer, and they trusted me and my boy Low Budget to DJ however we wanted to do it. So we had this like freedom in that city where there was no rules, and as long as you had a good time, it was great. And I think when me and Dave linked up in Jamaica, same thing. Like, when you're in London working with people, there's always like, this artist does this thing. Here, I'll bring this girl to you. Like, this is what she does. In Jamaica, you literally like, you play a beat and they like it, they don't, and they rap on it, and you give them a little money, and they're like, that's it, and they do the next song, and it's like, it was like almost like a factory, right? So we're just there with our weirdest songs, and they were like, yeah, I'll do any of these records.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because there's obviously an incredible collection of collaborators on this album. Like, are these people that you're reaching out for, or they're just coming through, or like, how do you get this crew of people together that feels so vital and like of that moment and of that place?
It's very unscripted.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened was, we're two guys that nobody knew, definitely, and at that time, it's a very close-knit circuit, the music scene in Kingston, especially the studios and whatever.
Right.
We were brave enough to hire out Tough Gong initially, and we reached out to a few people that we knew, and then we were waiting for people to come, and then we would be going out to get some food on the street, and there would be these kids on the street that were trying to give us their CDs at the time because they see us going in and out of the studio. But then they'd be like, they'd just be performing for us on the street, so we'd be like, come in. And then I think once people started to hear what we were doing, and it was different, but it was good. You know, I mean, you imagine playing those guys upon the floor.
On the floor.
For the first time in Jamaica, do you know what I mean? There's a few raised eyebrows.
Everybody was confused, but they were just like, well, in Jamaica, there was a bunch of progressive producers at the time, so they were doing interesting things. So people were actually leaning towards whatever stands out, you know? Our records were really standing out, but we would actually record them how we had them, and then we'd go back in the studio, and Dave was a pioneer in just like remixing his own records. So like by version 6 or 7, it was like totally insane music, you know? Like for instance, Hold the Line or whatever. We started and it just gets weirder and weirder, and we're like, okay, this is just weird enough. This is gonna raise like eyebrows, like you said, and get people's attention. So
it sounds like you're fitting in, but did you feel like aliens down there too, or that you're standing out and like you become a magnet because you are just so different from, you know, the musical community that existed?
We heard Upon the Floor on the radio in the gas station. And that was a little moment.
Yeah, we realized like they were supporting us.
They were feeling what you guys were doing.
That we had been, that it was penetrating this market that we felt that was like kind of very, very special. Do you know what I mean?
But we were committed. We were going there a lot. We weren't just like dropping in records. We were there like every month.
So when did that shift and you guys knew that you had your own thing happening?
With Major Lazer, when it started taking off, it happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we booked some shows. We played like SOBs in New York. And that was the beginning. We just met a guy, Cat Clash. We just had a guy come on stage with us and be on the mic, and that was like our first show. Played a bunch of records we made. People were super confused. We wore suits, but we kind of made a language of it. We liked the suits. We were like, had this mod look. We're like, how do we translate us, these two white dudes, making dancehall reggae? And we were thinking about like the specials. We were thinking about old school London times, and we're like, this is kind of like our reggae and the world has always been mashed up already. There's already scenes where like London had this dancehall mixed with rock and roll. So we felt like
skinheads and mods and all of that was a very sort. You know, there was the strong Jamaican community in West London, in particular, and South London.
I think our real like moment where we like thought this was like a solid project, people were paying attention, was probably our first Notting Hill Carnival, where we did our own party, because it was like everybody had their own sound system, and we rented this little like venue under the Westway.
Under the Westway, yeah,
and
right next door to my studio.
We had like some sponsors, and we just literally invited people. It was free, and we had like free rum, free Red Bull. And people just came, and
it was free to. All you had to do was it was like register or something like that.
It was like just come in. It was like we had like 6,000 kids there, and it was like me, you. We think we had Scream Banger the first one.
David
Rodigan played. But eventually, we had like Sean Paul would show up. We had Toots and the Maytals.
Toots and the Maytals. Yeah.
We had Machel Montana. We had everybody used to come and do a little set with us during Carnival, and it felt like, because Carnival really is the big mashup of culture. It's Jamaican and European, everything together, and it's like a big rave. You have dub in one area, drum and bass in one area, house music, proper dance hall, and we just did our party there, and like we saw like all the London young kids come out and like love what we were doing. So.
And you were accepted and celebrated, and
I think so.
Yeah. And you knew it was a thing.
Well, we weren't trying to copy or imitate anything too much. We were taking like a little bit of the influence, and you know, and London really is a hub for that type of music, especially on the west side where the carnival is. The heritage of the Jamaican community there is very present, you know.
Like, we weren't trying to copy anything. We really were trying to do something that was brand new.
Yeah.
We just had to conceptualize it. So we had like the art, we had the way we looked.
Right.
We had our you know, the Major Lazer character. We just kind of thought of like what are things that we could help build this brand that people understood it's something unique. And I think we did a really good job of just kind of. We had Kevin Kusatsu, our manager at the time, who really like also hardlined our like style. He came from the punk world.
Sure.
So he gave us like a bit of vision on how to do it.
I'm super curious about the visual identity, because you created this whole world with Major Lazer. Like, tell me about the conceptualization and how you landed on this aesthetic and who you worked with to make that so.
We had a list of two lists of 10 names each or something.
Yeah. Just words we put in a hat.
He had, one of the words was Major, and I was like, don't do that one. And one of my ones was Lazer, and he said, don't do that one, and that was it, Major Lazer. And then we kind of like, okay, cool, this guy, because it's kind of like, there's a lot of like General Levy, and do you know what I mean? So
a lot of words,
It was literally that.
It was truly picking words out of a hat.
Literally. And then making the character up as we were standing.
Okay, so you get these two words together. Does it immediately come to mind of like who you wanted this person to be, or tell me about how you talked that through and create this thing?
Well, then it was the Major Lazer was the guy that was the sort of superhero. The laser was just like, okay, how's he gonna have a laser? Make his arm a laser, and it was literally that. Kevin reached out to
Terry Gow.
Yeah, to get the artwork done. And he was literally the first person, right?
Yeah, we had one. We had a couple guys. We had this guy that did TNT surf designs. We had a couple guys that were famous artists that we just said, can you just here's the name, Major Lazer. Can you draw a person?
We had also the science, like a lot of the 80s 12-inch covers in Jamaica.
Yeah, there's a famous artist from Jamaica called Dominius, and he's from the 80s, and he did a lot of Jamaican comic book drawings, and he always did like dub covers and like some stuff like, I think he might have done some early like Yellow Man, things like that. These are album covers, and he was very influential. He was like a graphic designer in Jamaica, did magazines and posters for the government, and eventually started making these kind of comic books that were very unheard of. He had a big book that kind of covered his artwork over the last couple of years. He passed away years ago, but he drew all these kind of like Old West and superhero comic kind of designs, and we were like,
outer space, like, do you know what I mean? It was like kind of very,
So that was kind of our reference. We loved what he did, and of course, when you come to Jamaican storytelling, they love westerns. They love, Jimmy Cliff, The Harder They Come was basically like a spaghetti western movie. They love these like anti-hero characters, and all these artists want to be that guy. Like a lot of the dancehall guys come from that western atmosphere as far as like the storytelling, and I think that we created this guy that was sort of like in succession of the legacy of these Jamaican characters.
Okay, the album comes out June 16th, 2009. How did your lives change? Did they change off the bat?
For me, it was the first project that we created from scratch. So it was awesome to like own that project. We were like, now this is our, we were always in the behind the scenes. We're producers.
Yeah, finishing other people's records, but this was something that we did
Right.
100%. And
People really liked it. People were like into it. We had a great community of artists. Like we had Santi, like I said, we had Maya, we had Ricky Blaze and Nina Sky. We had
Mr. Lex.
Mr. Lex. We had all the people that were kind of the outsiders and Jamaican and that kind of culture were our companions in this project, and it was so cool to have that small community. And we just, like I said, we moved forward with it. We had Scarab Boy, and we had Clash, a bunch of just people that were also Jillionaire, just chaotic Caribbean punks, and that we were all like together in this little scene. So
Then it starts gaining traction. I mean, it got really good reviews. Let me read, I have something from The Guardian here. The album sometimes feels like a cherry-picking trawl through 40 years of Jamaican musical history, but it's all done with such energy and flair that it's difficult not to obey instructions and shake your bottom frenetically. That was The Guardian,
that's
2009.
the last line. Shake your bottom frenetically. Was
Shake
good.
your bottom frenetically.
Very English way to describe
Exactly.
dance
Shaking
song.
your bottom.
Yeah, I'll shake your bottom phonetically to this dance hall music. I think a lot of English press really liked it because everybody did love Caribbean and Jamaican music and dance hall, and I think in London, and you had to be either like real reggae, real dance hall, or you were like garage drum bass. There was like no middle ground where it was like kind of a
Everything
mashup.
was very segregated.
Yeah.
You were a specialist in, people were kind of precious about what their sound was. House music, you're house music. Drum and bass, you don't mess with anyone else. Whereas I feel like we chucked everything in the pot.
Sure.
Also at the time, like it was like the first era of like iPads and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
People were trading music on the
iTunes.
internet.
Yeah, right, exactly. It was
It was Soulseek and Napster and like I said, the message boards. People were like just
Right,
it was
yeah,
word of mouth, and
yeah.
that's the best. I think that's what really helped propel us ahead is that people really loved our music and they shared it with each other. Because
Yeah.
back before that, it was like you had to go to a store and buy a CD and rely on what a major label tells you to buy, rely on what's on the advertising in the front of the shop. But we just had people that heard about us because we already had a little community on the internet, and
Yeah.
they traded these songs like, "Yo, check this out." And they're like, "I never heard anything like this."
Yeah, right. So
And they invested in us, and I think that's how we kind of built our fan base. And by the second album, we were like really had a sound that was complete.
If the album were to come out now, like it was such a product of its time in the sense that you're saying it was shared in the way that it was shared, and it kind of like had this, slow dissemination on the internet. What do you think would happen if this album were to come out today?
I mean, with our videos, everything we did, it would be canceled before we even I think started. Because
Yeah,
people wouldn't
that's
have given
true,
us a
yeah.
chance. They'd be like, "We don't really understand this, and this isn't correct." But back then, nobody really gave a shit. We just they were like, "I like the way this sounds." Today there's too many tastemakers and rules.
the funny thing is when we came to put in the additional parts on the album for this time around, we found a safe that had all the hard drives in it from that time, from like 2007 to 2011, 9 hard drives that I'd lost the key for.
No.
And I'd moved house.
Okay.
And we got Derek, our engineer, who was there at the time, and we broke into this safe. That's where the MIA record was found.
What was that like for you to sit with that and just like
It's funny.
say what?
It was very funny.
He sat in front of his laptop and a little tear just dropped by. He held a candle in the wind, and then
Yeah.
we had so much chaotic records that are just so far from completion. But we both suffer from insane ADHD. To finish a record for us is such a difficult task. But if we have a chance to do it and sit back with it, I think we would be able to come up with another album easily
easy,
with the
yeah,
leftover records.
Do you think there was a sense of fearlessness because you knew it was so good that you didn't have to care or play by the rules?
We really had nothing to lose. At that time,
True,
me
yeah.
and him were both so unique in our own communities. We weren't the biggest DJs. I wasn't the biggest hip hop or dance DJ. He wasn't the biggest house DJ by far, but people always knew we were the kind of the coolest ones. Honestly, I'm not saying that. We already knew if you want to play a Switch record, it's gonna be weird, but it's to be the cutting edge record. When we started making our music and putting it out, we didn't have anything to lose because we already were pushing the boundaries, so we didn't care if someone didn't like it. I'd rather have gone out burning with a crazy record than to have something
Yeah,
else
right,
generic,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
What was it like when it started just gaining this momentum and became kind of this whole other thing?
I mean, we had to move quick and we started getting better at making music, I think. Before Dave, I was using Acid and Cool Edit Pro, and he showed me how to actually mix a record and put stuff in key and make a mastering plugins, and we had to learn that. We started getting offers from bigger artists by the second album. We were like, we were like, this could be big, you know, and like we had records like Get Free on the second project that were in like Boomaye, and we had these records that were much more refined than the first one that were able to be international. Like remember Boomaye was our first song with Busy Signal. We ended up, it was like used for the Kenyan soccer team as an anthem, and it was like a #1 record in France, and like we were just like, damn, we had really invented something with the Major Lazer language, but by the second project we were like able to like make records that were actually hits.
Sure.
And that was like awesome to see our trajectory, like just something so chaotic and then build something that makes sense for people was awesome.
And then that record, I mean, I'm just thinking of the Beyonce moment. You know, it's like this secret weapon thing, and then Beyonce uses it. Like, what was it like to sort of see that trajectory of like, this song is so secret, and now it's on one of the biggest songs in the world?
Well, the whole thing, I mean, look at, do you know what I mean? I mean, Wes has a wall full of everyone.
Sure, but not at that time.
Not at that time, but there was.
I remember me and him, we were in London, we were in New York. Beyonce had summoned us to work on her record.
Yeah, I remember,
Because we did Girls, and we did another record together for her album called End of Time.
End of
Time, yeah.
And then there's other songs that we did for Beyonce that never made it.
Yeah.
Sia wrote some, we have some demos from that sessions. I ended up going to jail one of those days, and I missed the sessions.
Yeah, I remember.
Tell us more about that.
I think like day 2, I was at the Standard, I got in a fight, and then I had to go to like court, and then they just put me in jail for a day. There was a blizzard, so I missed the sessions, and Dave did some records on his own, so.
Some Beyonce records.
Yeah.
You made it through there though.
I did get out of jail after 2 days, but I had to pay bail because no one came the next day because it was a snowstorm, so the judges didn't show up.
Oh yeah.
And I ended up having to go to court. And there was a guy there, was a fan. He had I paid his bail too because I felt bad for him. I made back to studio, and we finished that Beyonce song, so it was cool.
She wasn't there.
She was there one day.
She was there.
Yeah,
She was there.
And
She's kind of like magic in the studio. She's dancing, and she's very hands-on.
And she has a thick accent. Like a real, you don't know it because you don't see her that often in the studio. I remember she has like the most thickest Texas accent that now when you hear her, she just has like, it just talks normal to you in the studio. When you hear her in interviews, you don't hear it as much, but when you're in the studio with her, you hear it. Something I remember.
Take me through the timeline here, because when did you exit the scene in terms of Major Lazer? Were you on the second album?
I think, yeah, after the second album, I think what happened was it became bigger than either of us had expected. And I don't really like doing this. Like the front end of it.
Sure.
Wes is way more comfortable doing that.
Yep.
And I like being in the studio and watching people be on stage and do that type of thing. So for me, the way that he tours and the way that he jumps on planes and everything is like, that for me is magic, but really I was way more comfortable being behind and back. And then I got into doing more production and writing, and Wes just went on the craziest DJ rocket to the moon.
Touring is difficult, and Dave, we were doing so much of it, and it was like crisscrossing everywhere. And you know, we were younger, we used to party, and so it didn't really work that well with the way we drink a whole bottle of rum at the carnival and taking a flight.
Yeah. I couldn't keep up.
There was a moment once when we were in Australia, and I saw Dave at the airport, and I was like, "Hey, I'm about to board this flight," and he's like, "Yeah, cool." And then he's on the flight. He falls asleep at the airport, misses the whole show. He's like in like the Adelaide airport or something.
Yeah. I remember
sleeping.
When I went back to Australia, they wouldn't let me go around without someone
being a babysitter.
Without a chaperone, without a
Just
chaperone.
a premonition of like,
So
this
Dave,
might not work.
Yeah, I think Dave definitely knew his limits. I think getting off the road was really good for him, and he actually is amazing in the studio. He became more of like an executive producer, a confidant for young artists, and it was like I think it was much better for him. I was like loving the road. And I still was like younger, and I felt like I had the energy, but
You still do.
I still do, but I don't do it as much. That was crazy because we weren't making that much money. We were taking like shitty flights. We were like doing budget airlines. We had a bunch of people with us. It was like we were traveling like 15 people, and it was just time consuming. Really, it was time consuming. And he had a girlfriend at the time and everything. I was still young and out there, just, partying and stuff. But I think it just became too much time. It got sillier and sillier. I think Dave just got more uncomfortable too.
You were never going to be the guy running across the stage with the
He was
flag.
kind of like smoking a cigarette, almost like looking at the show like, what the fuck is even going on? I remember looking at him, he was
Did
like,
I mean this?
yeah.
Did we
Did
mean
I
this?
mean that?
It got so out of control. There was like people half naked jumping off ladders and Dave just smoking a cigarette. Like,
Remember
what even
that?
is going? Yeah, I remember looking over and he was just like, I would have to do it, and I'd be like running on stage. People would be like, "There's a flamethrower," and he was just like smoking a cigarette. Like, what is even going on?
Do you feel like this album created a template, so to speak, for you being able to find sounds from around the world that you were into and like put them through the Major Lazer filter and show them to new audiences? I'm thinking Africa,
Yeah.
South Africa, South America.
I mean,
all of the
as
Caribbean.
I was always traveling, so the first album definitely was just us in Jamaica. Like, just
Yeah.
we like I said, we had a little studio there, and anybody that came by, we'd make records with them, and that's how the album started and how we finished it. By like the third album, I was like in Brazil, and I was meeting people, and we were like Anita or whoever the artist, an Indian artist or whatever it is, somebody from South Africa, like Burna Boy. We had a huge record with him. I was always thinking, how do we take what they're doing and bring it to the rest of the world too? So I think that it started to grow as I traveled.
Obviously, Lean On made history as the most streamed Spotify song ever at that time. What was it like for you to like break barriers?
We first had a deal with Downtown, and then they got excited about Upon the Floor because they had like a little buzz, so we ended up doing Keep It Going Louder on the major label, but it was too crazy of a song. And Bubble Butt, we had a big song with Bruno Mars that was super random. Me and him were working with No Doubt at the time too, and we got upstreamed. And then we went to Jamaica. It was like, okay, damn, we got some money now. They're actually giving us a little money to make an album. We made this song called Get Free. Honestly, it's probably our best song ever. As far as our context and how we are as artists, I think that's our legacy song. It's just so beautiful. The video is amazing. It's a real poem to Jamaica. And we turned it in to major label Interscope, and they literally were like, this sucks. Where's the dubstep? And we're done with you. They dropped us. So I was like, all right, fuck it. We'll put it out ourselves. And then we ended up having Boom I on that album, some other records, and it kind of was a good follow-up, but we were like, you know what? We don't really need a label. We kind of like, we already built this whole thing. We already made our own videos. We already know how to make a show. We already know how to kind of get the artists on our records. We know how to make something that's never been done before. So by the time we had our third album, we had kind of formed like, damn, we can kind of lean into like what's on the radio now. We can lean into, we kind of set a precedent. Now we can make things that are bigger. And I think with Lean On, it was just like, we were on the forefront of the way music sound, but also we were down to give our music away. We were down for our records to stream. We partnered with Spotify. We partnered with Apple and Tidal, whatever was there at the time. And we were like, let's push this forward. Labels were still complaining back then. They were still like trying to cut bootlegging off the internet. And we were like, we don't give a shit as long as we're getting shows and stuff. So I think Lean On, it just started building traction everywhere, and it became a huge record. And we were like the first ones to really partner with the DSPs to get those records to get big. And I think that was like the power of like moving forward with technology and not being scared of it.
It also met the moment because dance music was, I mean, that was what, 2015?
Yeah.
Like that was when like the peak of, you know, whatever you want to call it.
The
EDM
energy of
movement.
dance was taking over America for sure.
Yeah, and like you were right there for it, but you had also set the stage for it and helped create it with the first album, so you kind of rode that wave and then had that moment, like, you know, when that was the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, there was a lot of timing that was, you know, but I think that was due to being out and DJing and, but also translating that into what we were doing in the studio, because we were, like Wes was saying, we had an outlet that we didn't have to really listen to anyone, as long as we were kind of like our own A&R, we were our own, do you know what I mean, our own sort of.
Right.
If we actually listened to the critics and listened to our fans and listened to what people thought we'd make, our music would fucking suck.
What would it sound like?
Just whatever's created in like a marketing, a meeting at a label, who knows what they think is good. But we just made shit that we liked, and we made shit that we liked to play, and I think that's kind of why it was great.
Do you have a nostalgia, or do you miss those pre-algorithm times?
I do. I always think about the first time we played in Jamaica together, and it was a complete bust. And people were excited because they knew, like, we played at this party at the Asylum, and Prince came and kind of saved our show. A couple guys that we collaborated with, but it was cool to like kind of bomb and be like, all right, nothing's perfect, you know, and then we got better. It's good to kind of like, we were like, we got to get more sound system records, we got to get more dub plates, we need to host better. That's how we decided we needed a host. for our shows, so it was actually pretty good to hit some roadblocks in the way.
Okay, so what's it like for you two to come back to this 15 years later? Like, do you guys keep in touch, or is this kind of
Yeah,
a...
we're always knocking bits and bobs back from forth and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
we never lost touch. I think I always come back to him like, yo, Dave, what do you think about this? Like, he's always a barometer of like what's cool, what's different, and I was for the last 10 years still feeding him records and asking him questions. So
The different iterations of Major Lazer. When Jillionaire and Walshy came in, did anything change sonically, aesthetically? Tell me.
Walshy and Jillionaire just brought me and Jillionaire we found Scared Boy. Jillionaire's always been around since the beginning, really, and he brought us to Trinidad, and that was another info. I didn't know much about Trinidad, and he brought me there to do some shows, and I learned a lot about soca and the energy, and I was like, damn, this is even crazier. A smaller island, but I fell in love with it. And we started going to Trinidad to work too, and we met Walsh because Walsh had a group called Black Chinese, and they were similar to what Major Lazer did. They were Chinese Jamaican kids, but they did dub plates of like Nirvana, like James Brown. They were just like on the fringe of Jamaican music, but doing something also very unique. And we brought Walsh in, like, yo, can you help us do what we do, but give us more of a Jamaican edge? And he came and like I said, sold up the shows for us and made us like really have a plan of attack, and we became like this kind of circus live because of Walsh and Chris. Like I said, the group just kept growing. Now we have 8 drums also, and anybody who's into Caribbean music and into the chaos of it, I think we brought them into the fold, and they're part of our team. Cadenza as well is a good friend of ours, David Rodigan's son, also worked with us a little bit. I think we have a big family. I think Santi's part of our family, like Maya's part of our family, Prince and Boo. Like there's a lot of guys that are helped us put together what we've done.
Why did Jillionaire leave, and then how did you get 8 drums in the mix?
I think Jillionaire, same thing with Dave. He was just like, yo, what am I doing here? He wanted to like get married, and he wanted to like find, other things that he was doing, and the road was demanding.
Sure.
Even me, we only do like 4 or 5 Major Lazer shows a year, but back in our heyday, we were doing like 50.
Right.
And in between, he's doing 50 Switch shows. I'm doing 50 Diplo shows, and it was just like too much. And we didn't know how to allot our time to the right things.
Burning Man at Coachella.
I pick one?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't ask me that. I'll get in trouble when we hit one.
Coachella.
I'll say Burning Man then.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. That's how we work out.
First day on tour, last day on tour.
Oh, the last day on tour.
First.
Okay. Performing at nightclubs or private events?
Honestly, they both equally suck. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
private events are pretty funny though, because you already got paid, so you can do whatever you want.
Sure. Clubs, you have to earn that money.
Yeah.
Okay. Radio or streaming?
What's radio?
Radio. Definitely.
Bold. Okay.
If you get the radio, then you're really doing it right, because that's difficult nowadays.
There you go. Trance or techno?
I don't even know about any trance records really.
Techno.
Yeah, I gotta say techno.
Hardstyle or grabber?
Just Gabber, because it's so crazy.
Progressive house or tech house?
I don't really know the difference of that, but
Tech house.
I'll go tech house too.
Sure.
I think Dave invented tech house. I feel like.
Yeah.
Bombshell.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Scoop here. Okay. Ibiza or Ibiza?
I don't.
Ibiza.
Yeah, what he said.
I'm from Essex.
There you go. Ibiza or Tulum?
Ibiza's better.
Yeah, Ibiza.
First class or private plane?
Shit, give us a I mean, are we paying for it?
Yeah.
Then the first class.
Okay. LA or New York?
That's a hard one. We both live in LA. We both skip New York, but I love going there. I'll say New York.
Yeah,
It's a good vacation spot.
LA.
Okay, thank you. All right, Instagram or TikTok?
I don't even know what TikTok looks like anymore.
Good.
You haven't even have TikTok?
I've never had a TikTok. No. TikTok.
I seen recently he does post some stuff on Instagram now.
I'm trying to do Instagram.
I followed you today.
You did?
You got some stuff there.
I recently
There's
seen it. I've
some
seen it
things.
now.
Yeah, you're building it. I see it. Sunset or sunrise?
Oh, sunrise.
Yeah, sunrise, easy.
Okay. Driving or passenger?
Driving.
Passenger.
Easy. You guys can go together. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Mountains.
Grammy or an Oscar?
Oscar. Oh.
An Oscar, yeah, where's that?
How do we get one?
Rich and famous or rich and unknown?
Rich
and unknown.
Way better.
Okay. Attend a party or host a party?
Host. Attend. Stay home.
Attend.
Go to sleep.
The 80s or the 90s?
The 80s.
Yeah.
Sweet or salty?
Salty.
Salty.
Being late or being on time?
Oh, we're never on time.
Late.
Memes or GIFs?
Huh?
I know. We'll skip
GIFs?
that one.
Me, and they're the same.
GIF moves. GIF. A GIF moves.
Oh, GIF.
A GIF. Excuse me.
GIF.
Thank
GIF.
you. Cool. Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Christmas.
Yeah.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Summer, all the time.
Major Lazer or Jack U?
Oh, Major Lazer.
Major Lazer or Silk City?
Major Lazer. Are you asking me or him? 'Cause
Major Lazer.
Major Lazer for all of them.
Major Lazer or LSD?
Major Lazer.
Major Lazer all day.